After having lived in 3 cities in 3 different countries in the last 7 years, I started to miss the feeling of having a home. A place where I feel 100% integrated, where I have a bunch of friends, where I'm comfortable but challenged at the same time, and most importantly, where I know I will stay for the next 5 to 10 years. Moving around and living abroad is exciting and challenging, and I would always do it again. But now, in the end of my 20s, I'm seeking a change. I want to find a home which suits my professional, athletic, and personal ambitions. I was looking for a big city with beautiful nature nearby, hardworking people you can connect and network with, a city with better weather than Copenhagen, and with sporty people I can run, bike, hike, and work out with. And I think I found that city. 2 months ago, I moved to Munich, and in this video, I'll share how my first 2 months here have been. Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 3 of a monthly series where we talk about structural engineering, my journey creating content online, and my life being a structural engineer. This is the December update, and let's get into it. Let's start with the story of the month. And as you already know from the intro, this time I want to talk about my first 2 months here in Munich and at the new job. Yeah, what can I say? I'm completely blown away by the city. Munich has so many parks like English Garden, public transportation is great and affordable. People are very active and sporty, especially when it comes to running and cycling. There's great job opportunities here. So far, I've met so many ambitious people. I've never met so many ambitious people in such a short time frame and in one place. There's a bunch of internationals, cool cafes, and yeah, nice nature outside of the city. I didn't expect to have such a great time from the beginning. This is basically the third time that I moved to a new city. First time was to Innsbruck in Austria, then to Copenhagen, and now the third time to Munich. And if I'm honest, the first 6 to 12 months in all of those places have always been really challenging. Like, I remember in Copenhagen, I basically arrived there during COVID. It was super hard for me to find friends and to socialize. And also in Innsbruck, it took me quite a long time to find friends that I match with. Like in Innsbruck and Copenhagen, people here are very active and sporty. But what's a bit different here is how ambitious people are in their professional lives. I don't want to say that people are not ambitious in other places, but Munich is really like next level. And a very good friend of mine who also lives here in Munich, I think he found the right words. He said Munich is a hustler city. And yeah, from the conversations I had with people in run clubs, at work, when I met new people, I agree 100% that Munich is a hustler city. Work is always a topic when you meet somebody new. Just my roommate, for example, he's a consultant. And if he's in Munich during the week for work, usually he's in other places, he often gets home at 11 or 12 p.m. But you can kind of feel the excitement about work in those conversations. And I just think that people here care more about their career. I personally like that a lot because I'm very similar to that. In Denmark, for example, most people didn't understand if you were a bit more ambitious and if you worked overtime and if you studied after work at home. So I often didn't even tell people that I was, working long hours and at home because people, they just really loved and valued their spare time. I never felt that I could be proud of working a lot in those places. Yeah, I joined a run club, found a gym routine again, met up with a couple of friends that I already had here, and went to a couple of social events with my colleagues, like the Christmas party, bouldering to get to know them, Friday beers after work, and of course drinking Glühwein on the Christmas market. I've also been doing a lot of socializing since I moved here because that's something I didn't really do enough in Innsbruck and in Copenhagen in the beginning. And that's something I basically learned from already having moved to two different places before. Because that's something I didn't do enough when I moved to Innsbruck and Copenhagen, with the right result that I felt a bit lonely in the beginning. Yeah, it took quite a long time to find friends there. In Innsbruck, I was, I think, 19 years old, so I was very inexperienced. I didn't really know that it's actually a lot of work to find friends in a new place, and I didn't put in enough effort. But yeah, as I said, I learned from these struggles, and now I put in a lot of work. Even though I'm an introvert, I really get the energy when I'm by myself, alone in the evenings. But yeah, social contacts are super important for my well-being. That's also a big learning from my previous experiences. And I also learned that I want to build a friends base really quickly, and that's why I put in so much work. And yeah, probably everyone who has moved to a different place knows what I'm talking about. All right, now let's talk about my first 2 months at the new job. And yeah, as for the city, I'm also positively surprised by my new job. I joined a structural engineering consultancy with around 200 employees in 8 different locations. I think we are located in 3 countries. My colleagues here are super friendly, young, competent, also very ambitious. The company has a flat hierarchy. The offices here in Munich are great. They are central. It's easy to get there with public transport. And I'm already busy with some really exciting projects. I realized like structural engineering is done very different in different countries. Like you build with different building materials. There's, the whole setup can change from country, but also sometimes between companies, like the way you document templates you have, calculation sheets, software you use. Yeah, if I'm completely honest with you, I also think structural engineering is a bit more exciting here in Germany and also challenging than it is in Denmark. And again, usually I only talk about the positive things, but since I'm sharing so much of my life here, I feel like I want to also share my learnings from having lived in different countries with you guys, so you actually get a good overall picture. So yeah, the thing in Germany compared to Denmark is that you as a structural engineer, you design every little element of a building, like staircases, handrails sometimes, even like also like the roof structure. In most projects, you didn't even calculate the roof structure if it was like a timber roof. Then like the manufacturer of the rafters did the structural design of that. I never designed like a staircase or a balcony. There was always like the subcontractors who were responsible for that. And here you get to design a lot more elements and you have to think a lot more about the whole project in itself, which I find very interesting because you get to design a lot of different elements. There is also less documentation in Germany. I think it's just about the right amount of documentation. I also know that a lot of people think it's already too much documentation here in Germany. For example, in Austria, you have much less documentation demands. But for now, I think it's the right amount. And you use a lot more software here in Germany. You design almost everything with FE software. You have great software packages for designing beams and columns and rafter roofs and so on. I mean, in my old job in Denmark, we had all those programs, yes, and I also used them. But I spend most of my work actually documenting and also using Excel sheets instead of software programs. Yeah, in Denmark, the documentation demands were insane, and almost every calculation was done with Excel sheet. It's instead of software programs. Yes, I also used FE programs and other software tools, but not as much. It's often made me think what actually a good structural engineer is. Is it someone who's really good and fast in using Excel sheets? Or is it actually the guy who knows a lot about static systems, reinforced concrete, steel? Yeah, here at my new job, my colleagues work a lot because they really like their job. I appreciate that a lot. And another thing that I really appreciate is that we often also sit together after work, drink a beer, talk, and it's like just a great way to get to know my colleagues better, especially now in the beginning since I only joined 2 months ago. Don't get me wrong here, I also had a great time working as a structural engineer in Denmark, especially because it was the first 2 years of my career after university. I had a lot of responsibility from my colleagues. I had fantastic projects I worked on. I just want to be fully transparent what I think. And I think for me as a person, structural engineering and for the future is a little bit more fun here in Germany. I'm also super grateful for the opportunities that I got from the old company that I worked for in Denmark. As I said, I learned a bunch and I also had great colleagues. Okay, let's get to the structural tip of the month. This time I want to talk about reinforcing timber beams. And there's two types of reinforcements. So first of all, we have to ask the question, what does not verify? Is it either bending or shear, or is it compression or tension perpendicular to the grain of the timber beam? And let's start by looking at a bending problem. Like we have our timber beam, it's simply supported. Basically, the first solution is to basically just add another beam on top or below the beam. This could be very beneficial in renovation projects, but sometimes you might have space problems. Sometimes you can only add another beam from the bottom and sometimes just from the top. And then you have to, in this case, it's very important that you actually screw the two beams together so that they act as one beam, because you need to transfer the shear between those two elements. And you achieve that with screws. And I actually wrote a very detailed structural design guide on how to verify such a double beam, and I'll leave a link in the video description below to that. Then the second option or like solution would be to basically just add steel beam reinforcement on the sides of the beam. This could be U profiles, it could even be HEB profiles, or just like some flat steel profiles. And yeah, by that you also reinforce it and you increase the bending and shear capacity of the beam. Now, the second type of reinforcing a timber beam is for the scenario that the compression perpendicular to its grain doesn't verify. We have that in locations of supports. And the first solution would be to basically increase the support area by simply, maybe you can lift the beam up and put like a steel plate underneath if it's like a existing building, if it's like a existing beam, and in case that it's a new beam, you can just make the plate bigger. The other scenario is that you reinforce the beam with screws. I just want to leave it that way now. I don't want to go into it more in detail. But if you want me to write a detailed article about it or make a video about it, then leave a comment below the video. Update on structural basics. As of today, December 28th, we are 10,504 subscribers to the Structural Basics newsletter. This is up by 720 people who have joined us in the last 30 days. Then we had about 38,000 people visit our homepage, structuralbasics.com, in the last 30 days. And on YouTube, we have grown by 232 people in the last 28 days. And we are now 2,525 people subscribed there. Growth is happening on all channels, which is always great to see. Thank you for joining us here. On the newsletter, we published 5 articles. The topics were punching shear of flat slabs, the creep coefficient, how we can understand structures better with real models, crack verification of reinforced concrete, and how to calculate anchorage lengths. I'll leave links in the description below to all of those articles if you want to check them out. That was it for December. I hope you got value. I hope you return, and I'll see you on the next one in January. Peace.